Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you joining us today. We are going to be exploring the completely invisible yet deeply interconnected world of the Internet of Things, which you probably know best as simply IoT. Now, today, we aren't just going to talk about what IoT is on some high surface level. We are going to break down its exact physical anatomy. We're looking at the nuts and bolts, the circuits, the signals, to understand exactly how this massive global network actually functions, right from the ground up. Okay, let's kick things off with a really simple question. How exactly does a dumb object, like say a standard light bulb, an industrial factory machine, or even a tractor sitting out in a field, suddenly transform into a smart, intelligent device? It's something we totally take for granted every single time we ask a smart speaker to turn down our thermostat, right? But getting an inanimate piece of plastic or metal to actually sense its environment, make a decision, and then talk to the world, that doesn't just happen by magic. It all comes down to a very specific architecture of interconnected building blocks. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by exploring the IoT ecosystem as a whole. Then we'll look at sensors and actuators, followed by processors, gateways, and connectivity, and cloud computing. And finally, we'll tie it all together with some real-world IoT applications. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, exploring the IoT ecosystem. At its very core, an IoT ecosystem is really just a network of physical objects that are embedded with technology, allowing them to communicate without any direct human involvement. And honestly, the easiest way to understand how they pull this off is to compare these four building blocks to a biological system. Think of the sensors at the very bottom as the senses. They're gathering input. Above them, processors act as the local brain. The gateways function kind of like a nervous system, transmitting all that information. And finally, up at the top, the applications represent the resulting intelligence and action. If any single one of those blocks is missing, the whole system fails. Moving right along to Section 2, sensors and actuators. So this is the critical frontier where our digital system meets the messy physical world. Sensors detect changes, like a shift in temperature or sudden movement, and they convert those physical changes into digital data. Basically, they are reading the world around them. Actuators, on the other hand, do the exact opposite. They receive digital signals and convert them back into physical actions. So if sensors are the eyes and ears of our system, actuators are the muscles. They are the motors and switches actually making things happen in the real world. To give you a more concrete idea of what this looks like, let's look at some common sensors you'll find in almost every IoT project out there. You have temperature and humidity sensors, which might be monitoring a commercial greenhouse. Motion and gyro sensors that track the orientation of connected cars. Light-dependent resistors, or LDRs, which are essentially simple light sensors that tell streetlights exactly when to turn on at dusk. Then you've got gas sensors, like the common MQ series used by a lot of hobbyists, detecting hazardous smoke or carbon monoxide in smart buildings. And ultrasonic sensors, which calculate distance by bouncing sound waves off objects. You'll see those used a lot in smart parking systems. Every single one of these takes a physical parameter and translates it into a digital pulse.
That brings us to Section 3, processors, this system's brain.
Now, once that digital pulse is generated by the sensor, it has to go somewhere, right? The raw data coming in is often just a chaotic stream of numbers, and that's where embedded processing units, specifically microcontrollers, come into play. Think of specialized low-power chips like ARM processors or popular development boards you might have heard of like Arduino or Raspberry Pi, sitting right there on the device itself. They execute the application-level logic, they decide things like the sampling rate of the sensor, they filter out localized noise, and they make immediate micro-decisions. For example, if a temperature sensor suddenly reads a dangerous heat spike, the microcontroller acts as the brain that instantly tells the actuator to trigger a cooling fan, and it does this before the data even reaches the internet.
Next up, Section 4, Gateways and Network Connectivity.
So what happens when that local brain actually needs to phone home? Well, it uses a network. But engineers have to make some pretty strict trade-offs here, because there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all for IoT networks. Let's say you have a smart TV plugged into the wall. Wi-Fi is great for that, because you have high bandwidth and essentially unlimited power. But what if you are placing a tiny soil moisture sensor in the middle of a massive agricultural farm, and it's powered by a tiny battery? Wi-Fi would drain that battery in a matter of hours. That's exactly why we use technologies like LoRaWAN or Zigbee out in the field. They offer ultra-low power consumption over a really wide area. On the flip side, for something like autonomous vehicles that need incredibly reliable, high-speed data with a massive density of devices around them, we rely on 5G cellular networks. On top of those physical connections, we need communication protocols. Basically, the languages these devices speak to each other. In the IoT world, traditional web protocols like HTTP are often way too heavy and power-hungry.
Instead, we see protocols like MQTT, which uses this brilliant lightweight publish and subscribe model. Devices publish data to a broker, and other systems just subscribe to it. It's an incredibly efficient design, ensuring reliable data delivery even when the network is spotty or the device is heavily constrained by battery life. We also use specialized protocols like IPv6 and 6LoWAN. Think of those as super efficient rulebooks, ensuring we have enough unique digital addresses for the billions of tiny devices coming online.
All right, Section 5, Cloud Computing and Analytics. All this data traveling across our digital nervous system usually ends up in one main place, the cloud. You can think of the cloud as the collective memory and the heavy-duty analytical engine of the whole IoT ecosystem. These devices are producing massive amounts of data. Cloud platforms provide the highly scalable storage and computing muscle necessary to handle that influx. And this is where the real magic happens. This is where we apply advanced machine learning and AI algorithms to look at millions of data points over a long period of time. So instead of just reacting to an overheated machine in the moment, cloud analytics can recognize really subtle performance patterns and predict a failure weeks before it even happens. That's what we call true predictive maintenance. But relying solely on the cloud brings up a newer, incredibly vital concept called edge computing. Because honestly, we don't always want to send every single piece of raw data all the way to a central server. It takes too long, it uses up too much bandwidth, and it can even pose privacy risks. Edge computing solves this by shifting some of that heavy processing power down to the edge of the network, like the IoT gateway itself. By filtering and analyzing data locally, we achieve near zero latency. And that is absolutely critical if you're running, say, a high-speed manufacturing robot or an autonomous car, where mere milliseconds can mean the difference between safety and disaster.
Which brings us to Section 6, Real-World IoT Applications.
Now that we have the sensors, the processors, the network, and the cloud all working together, we can see how this fundamental architecture scales across entirely different industries. In smart cities, it's managing traffic lights and optimizing waste collection. In agriculture, it's powering precision farming where soil sensors completely automate irrigation. In healthcare, wearable devices are tracking patient vitals and alerting hospitals instantly if something goes wrong. And in the industrial IoT sector, or IIoT, this architecture is creating true smart factories where machines are self-optimizing and completely automating quality control in real time. Let's actually tie this all together with a quick mini narrative of just a single data point in one of those factories. Step 1. A temperature sensor on a motor detects a sudden heat spike. Step 2. The embedded processor immediately reads this, filters out the normal operational noise, and flags it as a critical anomaly. Step 3. The local gateway uses that lightweight MQTT protocol we talked about to fire off an alert to the edge computing system. And finally, Step 4. Without waiting for a human to do anything, the edge system instantly sends a command back down to an actuator, which flips a relay to turn on an emergency cooling fan. The whole thing is seamless, autonomous, and incredibly fast. But as you can imagine, with great connectivity comes great vulnerability. Security in IoT absolutely cannot be an afterthought. It has to be secure by design. When you have billions of connected devices, you have billions of potential attack surfaces for malicious actors. It is so vital to implement strong encryption for data while it's in transit, rigid access controls, strong authentication, and reliable systems for delivering secure over-the-air firmware updates. We also have to constantly overcome interoperability issues, basically making sure devices from entirely different manufacturers can communicate securely without creating weak links in the chain. As we look forward, the future of this space is just tremendously exciting. We are currently seeing the rise of embedded AIoT. That's where artificial intelligence is baked right into the devices themselves, allowing for deeply autonomous decision-making on the fly. We're also seeing digital twins, which are exact virtual replicas of physical systems that we use for real-time simulation and optimization. And 5G, it's enabling what we call ultra-reliable low-latency communications, basically connections that are so fast and so bulletproof that things like remote robotic surgery are becoming a reality. And finally, there's green IoT, which is focusing heavily on extreme energy efficiency and decarbonization, ensuring that this massive network doesn't harm the very planet it's designed to monitor. Just to put the sheer scale of all this into perspective, estimates suggest that we aren't just talking about a few million gadgets here. We are looking at tens of billions of IoT devices actively being used worldwide over the next few years. That is a staggering amount of data, hardware, and interconnected intelligence that is fundamentally shaping human infrastructure. Which leaves us with one final thought for you today. Take a look around your own home, your workplace, your city.
As these billions of devices become increasingly smarter and this interconnected digital nervous system wraps around the globe, how is it going to change the way you live? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it gave you a solid foundational understanding of the incredible building blocks of the Internet of Things. Catch you next time.